Next, I would love to present our speaker today, which is also our friend, Joe Lynch.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are we all doing?
Great.
Wonderful.
That is good. We like it. So, it is good to be back here in Chicopee. It's always wonderful to have the ride out the pike, get my thoughts together, and then spend some time with you all. So, today I would like to talk about unintended consequences. You know, we have all had a lot of time over the past year to do a lot of self-reflection, have we not? Sometimes that's comfortable. Sometimes that can be very uncomfortable. You know, it's that whole concept of spending time with yourself. Sometimes we are so busy on the conveyor belt of life. We have deadlines. We have responsibilities. We have things that have us going in many different directions. Do you ever feel sometimes you just never get the chance to sit, gather your thoughts, talk to Spirit, and plan? Unintended consequences. As I kind of reflect on my journey and things that I've done, choices I've made, there are those times that stand out that say, whoops, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. You know, and again, the part of unintended consequences is it's largely we don't have the time to play out all those different scenarios in our minds. Now, I'm a Virgo, and so I tend to overanalyze things, and I will kind of in my mind run down scenarios. But that being said, there are still times that I have seen the consequences of my actions that turned out in a way that I didn't foresee and I didn't necessarily want to happen. So we always have to be in a very centered place so that we are working for the highest and best. Now, at some point, we have to trust that I am a good person. That's all of us. A collective I. And I'm working not to undermine anyone, not to bring them down, but working for the highest and best, whatever that might be. I go about my life. I make choices. And I trust in God and Spirit that these choices that I've been guided to make are for the highest and best. And I have to let it go. That whole concept of letting go and let God. I guess what I want to focus on there is we are in an active communication with the divine energy. We can't just go about life blindly, not taking the time to reflect on what is our goal and how does my goal affect me? How does it affect my loved ones, my neighbors, my community, my world? I have a good friend from college who is now a doctor of psychology, and she has been doing a great series on YouTube that she calls Mind Crafters. And what's interesting is this friend of mine, she at one time was diagnosed as ADHD. And that was a label that was placed upon her. You know, I do not believe that the people who came up with that label intended to give her a weight that she'd have to carry through life. But what's interesting, and you folks may know some psychology majors from school or whatnot, a lot of times folks go into psychology because they're working through their own issues. And one of the things my friend has done is to say, look at that label. You know, ADHD, attention deficit, what is it, hyperactive disorder. 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 I do not think that they intended to make disorder be the label that guides her for her whole life. So I was ecstatic to hear her doing these mind crafters segments. Because one of the things she says, like, let's change this around. Disorder is a word that implies shame. Shame is not a constructive energy. Shame is a limiting energy. Awareness is constructive. So she's changed it. So instead of disorder, she refers to it as fast mind gift. Disorder, gift. Disorder, gift. Which do you prefer, folks? Which, if you were in that category, which would you find more uplifting, the energy lighter, more creative, that you can work with it? Gift, of course. Gift is a celebratory thing. Disorder is that albatross around your neck. So she looks at it as, okay, maybe this isn't the perfect set of talents that I came into this plane with. Yet, for one reason or another, I did. So there's got to be a greater purpose, a greater reason for this. I truly believe that all of us have our gifts. That things that are our awkwardness at one point in our life may be our blessing in another section of our life. We don't know. And that's where we have to kind of trust. That's where we have to have faith. Because there is a reason that you came in with that gift. Now I look at my friend, and she's harnessed her energy to go on to get a doctorate. You know, she says, okay, yeah, I have this gift that has challenged me, but what is my calling for this gift? And just as we talk about creating our own happiness or unhappiness, our own purpose while we're here on this plane, she's a perfect example. I'm not going to listen to the world that tells me I have a disorder. I'm going to create something with this gift. And she's channeled her energy, her love, her joy into that. And as a result, she's created this series called Mind Crafters, to to reach out to the younger generation, a generation that seems to be having even more folks with the gift. Now, just as an aside, one of the things I found interesting since becoming and working for Spirit as a medium, and you folks can judge by your own experience, my mind moves much faster now than it ever did. So I don't know if in doing Spirit's work, because the energy is so subtle and it can be coming at you from many different directions, you know, I think if I got tested, maybe someone would tell me I have a disorder or a gift. So again, it's what do we do with our talents, our gifts? I wanted to share with you folks a story that I came across on the internet. And it's a simple tale. And in fact, I think it's probably been handed down in many cultures, in many countries. But this is a tale of a farmer who has 2 buckets. One of the buckets is cracked. And as a result of that crack, when the farmer takes these 2 buckets down to the river to grab some water to bring back to his farm, the one bucket is fine. The cracked bucket, of course, leaks. And at some point, the cracked bucket is very sad because it's damaged. It's not able to carry the water that the other bucket that is in perfect condition is able to carry. And the farmer, being a wise individual, says to the cracked bucket, "Here, let's go for a walk." And he takes the cracked bucket and he walks down to the river. But along the way, he points out to the cracked bucket the beautiful plants, the beautiful flowers that line the path. And the farmer says to the bucket, "These plants exist because of your gift. Because you've shared of yourself unknowingly. You have fed these plants, allowing them to live and to bloom." Think about that. The bucket with a crack, like my friend, has a flaw. Sometimes we are the hardest on ourselves because we see our flaw. We know, oh, well, that person, physically they're perfect. And that person is so much more intelligent than me. Or that person has hands that are so talented, they can make anything. They can take apart any machine and put it back together. No problem. I, on the other hand, have extra pieces. And it's just like, what do I do with these? So obviously I didn't do something right. That isn't my gift. But when we see it from somebody else, and this is where we come in, and if we work together, and you remind me of my gifts, and I remind you of your gifts. This is the concept of community, folks. That's how we build connection. That's how we remember that we all come in here for a purpose. And we may not know what that purpose is. But if we intentionally, every day, set out, kind of like the poem that we heard, we got that blank canvas. I don't know what to put on that canvas. But as I go by my day, go through it, I interact with different people. Those people will inspire me. Possibly on a good side, possibly on a bad side. But there is inspiration there in both. And based on that experience, are we not taking something away? So in one sense, we will always have unintended consequences. But I believe if we go about our life with a pure and open heart, we're not going to intentionally hurt somebody. We're not going to intentionally pull somebody down. But rather, we're likely to say, yeah, you might have that flaw, that gift. But on the other side of that coin, here's how we're benefiting from that. Because we all have that tunnel vision, do we not? We get into a mindset. We are programmed by what we ingest. You know, it's up to us to take that time to sit and pick it apart and say, is this my truth? Notice I say my truth. Because again, it starts with us. And if you hear something and it resonates with you and helps you to become a better person, then I would say, by all means, embrace it. If you hear something that resonates with you at the expense of another person, then I would say, maybe we need to look at that closer and see if that's truly the intended consequence. So I don't pretend to have the answers. I think you folks know me by now. I am Joe. Joe is a very simple name. I don't intend to put myself on a pedestal ever. But I do have some scars and some bruises from my journey, as you all do. And I hope today you take some time to reflect upon those, because they're not always bad. There's a good side too. And if you look at the experiences you have had, both good and bad, you will learn something. And when you reflect upon that with kind of that quiet energy of the divine around you, then you begin to see, oh, I get it. I see what it is that I was put in this place to experience. And the best thing about that awareness is you are now empowered to turn around and look at the next person coming down the pike and say, wait a minute, been there, done that, let me give you something to think about. And then you're free to make your own choice. But I've done my part. So in astrology we talk about the wounded healer. Look around. Everyone you meet is a wounded healer. If they stay in their wound, They wrap themselves in victimhood. But if they do their work and start to see it from a higher perspective, then they are empowered to heal the next person as well as themselves. So, with that, I will close and say thank you for listening, and I wish you well.